the stronger your language abilities in your own first language, the easier another language is going to be for you to develop.
Sunbeams forming a shadow for a field. We're floating, just carry by levity.
Today is essentially a very big event day. I have two different events, one for Spanish learners and Spanish speakers, one for people who like learning languages and speak different languages. Should be, assuming things go as planned, oh, red light, assuming things go as planned, probably 20-ish people at both. And one of the things I haven't figured out, this is a good time to talk about it because I've been thinking about it a while. One of the things that I haven't fully figured out is how to best get video footage at my events. So for example, when I was at the the language creation conference, when I'm at events like this, like I don't know if it's okay to be recording when people are talking and doing all that kind of stuff. And so something I'm trying to figure out and find kind of the right way to do it. If your vocabulary in your first language is quote-unquote poor, when you go into another language, you're actually going to struggle. Think about that, right? It's kind of like the stronger your vocabulary or the stronger your language abilities in your own first language, the easier another language is going to be for you to develop. This is actually why sometimes children struggle more than adults in a lot of ways when they're studying languages. Not always, but sometimes. Because they might have only had, if they're 8 years old, they've only had 8 years of experience in their first language. They don't have 27 years, 40 years, 30 years, 50 years in their first language. So all of a sudden you're throwing a second language in the mix, and they haven't even fully grasped one language, right? And so sometimes that's why some children find it challenging. So what's the whole point of this? Well, the point is that sometimes what tends to happen is that some people are struggling with a foreign language, and sometimes it's hard to really dissect it fully, but often the root might be that you don't have a full, solid base in your own first language, which sounds sort of strange, but that's sort of how it is.
Cachar, pájaro y gato, 3 animales ingratos.
Ay, bonito, eso no lo sabía. No.
Sometimes I've had people ask me questions in Spanish, and they'll ask me, how do you say blank word in Spanish? And that word they gave me in English, it's a word that I might know, but I'm not overly familiar with it. Like, I know how to use it, I know what it means, but it's not a word that I use in my vernacular, in my day-to-day speech. Which then leads to me when I respond, like, oh, how do you say that word? This is what you say. Usually, or not usually, but sometimes the word that I give in Spanish or French or another language to help translate will often be a workaround, will often be a dumbed down or a simplified version of the complex word that was delivered to me, because in my day-to-day English, I don't use those types of words, meaning I've never needed to learn those kinds of words. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But it is just about 10 p.m., a little bit before, about 9:40 if I'm not mistaken. Yep, about 9:40 p.m. About to head home. Wow, what a long day of events. I didn't really get a lot of footage from the event per se, really barely any. But here's some quick takeaways. Number 1, I got to practice lots of Spanish, which was phenomenal. Number 2, we had very good turnout at both events, which I was extremely happy about as well. Roughly 15-ish people at both. Number 3, an interesting observation was that at the second event, which was basically essentially it was like, hey, do you speak another language or are you learning another language? Come, let's eat dinner. That was essentially the event, and we had such a wide variety of people with lots of different cultural backgrounds, and lots of linguistical backgrounds, and I've done that type of event 2 times now, and both times it's been a huge success. People are really clicking, like it feels really good. It's a lot of fun. So that was phenomenal. I think number 4, which is a big win, is that I was able to get every single person into either my Facebook group or my meetup group, which is great because now every time I announce events, they are going to hear about the event, which is just great, and I'm thrilled about that. These events are a big part of my whole language self-employedness, if that's even a word. It's a big part of it. They drive some student flow, which is good. And, which I got a lead for a student, by the way, which is really good, a potential student. Yes, awesome, excited about that. But anyway, it's a good lead student. It sends me students, there we go. And the other thing that's really good as well is that it is building a language community, which it's just good to create that community. I really enjoy that. It's like having a YouTube, but in my city, in person, and it's just so valuable to have that, and it's a lot of fun, and it feels good, so I love it. So, yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.